Hi, I'm Andy Villamarzo with SBLive Sports Florida, and thank you for joining us for our 28th episode of the Coastal. And we got a good one here for you. And it is just me. There isn't a guest on with me, but I just finished up 3 days in Tallahassee, followed by a day over in Atlanta. Wasn't for the Georgia State football finals, unfortunately, but got to see the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where all the Georgia uh, teams play their state football finals, and was able to kind of see the venues in comparison to where Florida had their football state finals and where Georgia hosted theirs. And then I got insight for you on the FHSA board meeting that occurred earlier this week. But let's start off with the state finals that were over in Tallahassee, hosted by Florida A&M at Bragg Memorial Stadium on the field of Riley Field. And outside of the opening game, I would say every other game was exciting. It had a good finish to it, where it was competitive. Unfortunately, that 10 a.m. opener on a Thursday between Chaminade Madonna and Clearwater Central Catholic for the Class 1M state championship, that was the one game that just got out of hand. Chaminade Madonna was able to just roll past Clearwater Central Catholic. And I mean, Chaminade Madonna, this team is one for the ages. They've won two state championships back-to-back years in dominating fashion. Last year, winning 48-14 over the Marauders, and this time around winning by 50 plus over Clearwater Central Catholic. And it's that wide receiver you've all probably heard about, in Jeremiah Smith, the Ohio State commit, and he had over 170 yards receiving. He had 11 catches, and he really kind of helped set the tone for the offense with Cedric Bailey at quarterback. He's an NC State commit. There is a little bit of interest there to see if he changes his mind before early signing day. He just got an offer from the Miami Hurricanes, so everybody kind of wondering what he's going to do. Then you got JoJo Trader, who's already committed to the Miami Hurricanes, who had a highlight catch. He tiptoed, or had the kind of toe drag swag, as they call it, in that championship game. But you take a look at just what Chaminade has done over the last couple of years. The only loss they had was to Bishop Gorman in that Geico National Bowl last year, but being able to win 56-0 over CCC was definitely an impressive showing by the Lions, and just kind of why this team has a shot to win a national championship. This team was kind of right from the get-go. When you took a look at their schedule, you thought they might have a shot. And I don't know how many teams ended their season with a absolutely crushing victory in a state championship game, but Chaminade did. The following game provided a bit more excitement, and I'd say that would be an understatement. Mainland and St. Augustine, they battled for the Class 3S state championship game, which this game came down to the final minutes. Mainland ended up pulling away with this one, 21-19. And mind you, this was not your typical Sunshine State weather on the dais. I mean, it was pretty much hovering around the 50s all day long. So this game came down to Jacob Getman, the place kicker for the Buccaneers. They got inside the 5, and Coach Travis Rowland sent his kicker out to hit the game winner, and he trusted him, and he rewarded him for his faith, and sent the Buccaneers to their first state championship since 2003, which Coach Rowland was actually a part of that team as a player. So that's what made that very special, with Mainland coming away with the Class 3S title. And a lot of that has to be really attributed to the play of quarterback Dennis Murray Jr. He had a stellar game, over 200 yards through the air, over 180 on the ground. Really showed his just athleticism at the position. Broke off a 50-yard run for a touchdown. Just was really impressive on all fronts, and you could see why that the Buccaneers were a team that everybody talked about getting back to the state championship game, getting back, and they were able to do that. Really more so on their defense, but their offense definitely shined. The last game of first day was the Class 1 Rural State Championship game between Hawthorne and Madison County. That game was also kind of a defensive slugfest. You had Hawthorne, the defending champion from a year ago, after they won just their first title, up against a Madison County squad that's been there quite a few times, 6 times with 6 state championships in the Cowboys' history. And Hawthorne wins a defensive kind of battle, 22-13. And this game was really hard to see offense. I mean, if you're looking for any offense, this game didn't really provide too much. A lot more defensive play, special teams play. It was in the last quarter where Hawthorne was able to recover a fumble in the end zone that really sealed the deal for them. And it was just real plays by the defense and special teams that secured this win, because quarterback CJ Ingram for Hawthorne had 3 interceptions on the day. Tough day for him, but he's still able to battle through that to help the Hornets win back-to-back state championships, second in program history. And they were able to make that happen over in Tallahassee. Starting off the next day, at a little bit better day when you're talking about starting off the day. You had the 1S state championship game between Cardinal Mooney and Trinity Catholic. And depending on who you are, to me, this was probably the best state championship game of them all, just because of from start to finish. It really was a thrilling matchup, really even and balanced matchup between the two teams. Cardinal Mooney ended up pulling it out 31-27, winning their first state championship in well over 45 years. One back in the 70s. And I mean, Chris McCorkle, he had 2 catches, 116 yards, and both of those catches went for touchdowns, and none more important than his second one, which proved to be the go-ahead winner for them. And the Cougars just got on really kind of showed their deep ball presence early on. I mean, they were able to hit McCorkle, Florida commit Teddy Foster, really were able to hit on the deep passes between their 2 quarterbacks, Devin Mergany and Michael Valentino. Both quarterbacks alternated and did a nice job for Coach Jared Clark. And Trinity Catholic back in the state championship game after losing to First Baptist of Naples 21-3 a year ago, coming up short, just short here this time around. You thought after the state semifinals where Trinity Catholic beat First Baptist of Naples down in Collier County, you thought maybe this was a team that was 6-7 heading in, which it was hard to believe a team that was 3-7 entering the playoffs was going to be able to win a state championship. They ended up winning that state semifinal against FBA, but just falling short. And you got to really feel for Coach John Brantley and his Celtics. They came so close. They really were hoping to pull through this time, but they do have a lot of the pieces coming back, so we'll see how they bounce back from the loss. But it was definitely one that you're wondering, can Trinity Catholic somehow pull a rabbit out of their hat in the final seconds? But to no avail. The next game was the Class 4 state championship game between Columbus and Mandarin. And this game, I mean, it played out to being pretty good at first, but as the game kind of wore on, you started to feel like Columbus was going to be able to notch another state championship, their third. It was a repeat for them, because they won last year with the Explorer, which is kind of the high school version of the Philly. They won with that memorable 2-point conversion play to go ahead and win it. But they win this one. They didn't need no 2-point conversion. They won handily 38-19. And I mean, they did this on the legs of Alberto Mendoza, who just committed to Indiana, and Mendoza rushed for over 100 yards on the day. Didn't really need to throw too much. Had 10 pass attempts, and I mean, Mandarin with all the offensive prowess that they have at their disposal with Tramel Jones, a Florida State commit, Jamie French, an Alabama commit, Tyant Weish. I mean, you name it, they have a loaded offense. Columbus on the day producing a ton of offense, and Alberto Mendoza just was not to be denied in his senior season to go out on top. And many wondered were they going to be able to pull off this repeat, just because you had so many teams in Class 4M that were really right there that everyone felt could maybe push them out of their throne. And Columbus back on top. They're winners of the Class 4M state championship. The nightcap for the Friday night game, the second day, was Cocoa and Bradford, which produced probably the best turnout when you're talking about fans. Bradford, I think, didn't leave anyone back in Stark, but they did leave probably some points out on the field. Their defense did play well, holding Cocoa to their lowest total of the season, but they fell 20-6. And I mean, you got to give it up to Bradford, just being able to really hang tough with the defending champion Tigers. Just this Cocoa team, outside of one loss, which was everyone can throw an asterisk by if you're talking about the officiating, having a hand in that. Cocoa, really, they've been talked about as a nationally ranked team across many services, and they definitely they showed all throughout the season why they're a very talented bunch. But offensively, they weren't able to get it done. But their defense held Bradford to just the one early touchdown, and they just were able to match the defensive effort of Bradford and coming away with the championship back to back. It's not easy, especially against a school that brought about probably every single person in the town with them. The final day, and probably the most exciting day of the state championships for Florida, was this third day, and it started off with a bang. Probably shot heard around the world, if as you will. Berkeley Prep upsetting the nationally ranked Miami Norland Vikings 28-20. One of the more stunning results of recent memory when you're doing the eye test, as all of us do. We look at two teams and you say, okay, who do you think? And just looking at these two teams, you saw the athleticism of Norland. You know about a lot of the Division I recruits they got. And Berkeley Prep, not that they don't have any Division I level recruits, but not as many. And if you don't know the style of football they play, they're very one-dimensional. They like to keep it all on the ground between Dallas Golden and Joseph Troop. And these two, they did it all morning. They rushed for nearly 300 yards in combined yardage on the ground, and even freshman quarterback Cooper Hayes had a hand in things through a clutch touchdown on a fourth down early on. And the Buccaneers were able to hand Coach Dominic Ciao his first ever state championship as a head coach, doing it for over 40 years. Real feel-good moment for Coach Ciao. He was able to come away with a state championship. And for Norland, a disappointing ending for a Vikings team that really put everything on the line for this 2023 season. They defeated Miami Central not once, but twice in game-winning fashion, and they come away empty-handed, going back down to the 305 with no state championship. You got to wonder how does this team kind of stay together after a loss like that, because it was a loss that many felt was kind of, I don't want to use devastating, but definitely is one that hurt. And the Vikings, I mean, they do have quarterback Ineo Yapor, He's only a junior. He has a senior season. You kind of wonder what ends up happening with Norland. And I mean, hey, they could get back, but they're going to have to regroup after that kind of loss. Second game, second to last game was the Class 3M state championship between St. Thomas Aquinas and Homestead. And last year, this game, all the way up until the fourth quarter, was pretty evenly matched. And it was actually the first game when you're talking about when it was played down at DRV Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. It was the first of the 5 games to be played. And I mean, this one definitely didn't leave anything out. I mean, Aquinas and Homestead played all the way to the final minutes, unlike last year's game where it felt like you started to see it was getting decided earlier in the fourth. Aquinas coming away with a 31-28 win over Homestead, and Andrew Indorf, a first-year starting quarterback, threw 3 touchdowns to lead the Raiders, and they complete the 5-peat, 5 state championships in a row. It's never been done down in South Florida. The Raiders complete the feat, and I mean, championships are the standard down in St. Thomas Aquinas. I mean, you go to their trophy room and it is just dotted with titles everywhere, from district championships to regional championships to state championships. State championship or bust if you're St. Thomas Aquinas, and they add another one to the trophy case. And then the last game of the FHSA football finals was between Lakeland and Venice for the Class 4S state championship game. And this one kind of offered everything you would want in the first half. And then I would say in the last couple quarters, the wheel just really fell off for the Indians. Lakeland literally, figuratively, pulled away and ran away with things, 60-48. The game actually wasn't even as close as the final score indicated. Venice really scored like 2 or 3 times in the final, just a few minutes. But this one was all Lakeland. I'd say midway through the fourth. I mean, they were up by, I think, 30 plus at one point. Venice really made it respectable down the stretch, but impressed by the play of 2026 linebacker, running back Malik Morse. He did it on both sides of the ball. Demarius Rucker, Markel Johnson, that whole backfield really stepped up in place of injured quarterback Xander Smith, who was down with an injury. Wasn't able to throw, but he was able to hand it off, and the Dreadnoughts get it done and pull off the repeat. And then lastly, to follow the state football finals, and we'd say about 3 days later, so 72 hours later after the last state championship game was finished, you had the FHSA's emergency board meeting, which was to many to discuss reclassification, required or non-required district play, popular talk of an open division, which would kind of mimic what they have over in California, and take the top 8 teams and have a playoff, and other assortment of things for the 2024 season, or 2024-2025 school year. And the board meeting went over 2 of those topics. A lot of other things assumingly tabled. Wasn't really clear when you were watching the public broadcast via YouTube by the FHSA, but they decided to rid of the Metro Suburban Rural Series and go back to classifications, which the FHSA voted 9-4 in favor of returning classifications, which will be 7A through 1A, including a rural division. And then not much really more on how the playoff system would work, as they tabled that to a later date. The next time the FHSA meets is February 24th and 25th. So We assume it'll be discussed then, may need to be discussed even sooner than that. And then also discussed heavily was the requiring or not requiring of district play within districts, as the FHSA wanted to continue having districts, but was entertaining the fact of not having required district games. And that was something that really caused, I think, much of the confusion during the board meeting, as many didn't know exactly what they were talking about topic wise to what exactly they were voting on when it came to district play. In the end, they voted 9-4 in favor after a motion to require district play within districts. An idea that's been floated around is having a district tournament, figuring who the champion and runner-up would be, and that would be a district tournament to be played in weeks 10 and 11 at the end of the season, which would decide a district champion, and then in the two losers of the first round of the district tournament will play for a third place game, and there would be a universal bye week in week 9. So 8 weeks to start the season with no bye weeks, and then there's a universal week 9 bye, and then 10 and 11 there would be a district tournament. Insight is really tough to not see there's a bye week anywhere before that universal bye, just because we do know how the Sunshine State is. Sometimes there isn't sunshine, sometimes there's hurricanes that come through, and usually that's becoming kind of annually now, where there's a weekend of games that get kind of shelved because of hurricanes. And just had a couple years ago, Hurricane Ian coming through the southwest Florida and South Suncoast region, really devastating that area, and they were out of games for multiple weeks, or several weeks. So you got to wonder what exactly is the plan of the FHSA moving forward with how they're gonna do, if they're gonna do a district tournament. Some people are saying they heard during the meeting that there is going to be a district tournament. Some saying they never even touched on it really. Some saying they said, no, there won't be a district tournament. I mean, to me, I don't think they really touched on it. I heard a bit of talk about it, but there wasn't any kind of clear clarification on whether they're going to have it or not. And then the open division, very much talked about in the last few days. They tabled that for a later time. It really leaves you to wonder if it's even going to happen at all, just because you are going to have a lot of South Florida schools that would probably want to play in every single state championship game, and open division would not. I mean, you'd have to assume, based on the last few years, a lot of those teams are going to be bunched together in an open division. Teams like St. Thomas Aquinas, Chaminade Madonna, Miami Central, Miami Norland, Homestead, I mean, you name it. A bunch of these teams could be in the same open division, which would prevent them from actually being able to compete for state championships in those applications. So that's something that to keep an eye on, to see, will an open division come to fruition? May not, but at this time, it's just left for a later date, and who knows, maybe they'll never touch on it again. So that's kind of the insight, the news and notes from that FHSA emergency board meeting that occurred. But we'll have all state teams coming up. We'll have your player of the year, offensive, defensive, also your kind of breakout player of the year, and more from the state of Florida coming up in the coming days as Christmas and New Year come around. So stay tuned here with us at SBLive Sports Florida for all of your high school sports coverage.